Welcome to the Total Soccer Show Weekend Review! No Premier League over the weekend, but that wasn't tragic. We got the FA Cup, and we're reliably formed. That is magic. Plymouth took the lead at Man City. That would have been magic if it stood, but in the end, City came back despite the challengers being so good. Newcastle and Wolves were knocked out and took it on the chin, and Man United did what they do best. They didn't win. In Serie A, Inter went to Naples to defend their Scudetto title, but in the end, the top three teams all drew and dropped points that were vital. But we did see big action at the top of the table in Spain, where Johnny Cardoso helped inflict some Real Madrid-based pain. And in MLS, there were plenty of goals and plenty of star tricks, but nothing cooler than DC United's 96th minute bicycle kick. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, it's your friend, it's my friend, the Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan. You made me sad with the Man United, but then you brought me back with DC United. Thank you for that.
A tale of two Uniteds, if you will, Taylor.
Yes, both appropriately named for uniting two teams. No, that's not the case. But yes, a tale of two Uniteds indeed.
In my intro, I think I said Newcastle instead of Newcastle. Is it because they play in black and white? Is that why I did that?
You tell me, my friend. No one else would have caught that or focused on it. I'm glad that you brought us back to it.
Either way, our editing machine's broken, as it was established on TSS, so we're not going back. Graham Rutten's here. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. I swear I didn't leave that blooper in on purpose, but it was quite good, and I was very thankful that it was nothing incriminating. We'll keep that for the next blooper, for the blooper reel that's coming out on the YouTube at some point in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Graham. Graham is referring to our YouTube channel, where you can watch all episodes of Total Soccer Show. Link in show notes, where sometimes we restart a segment, and that restart was left in. Actually, no, it was deliberate. It was to show that this isn't a construct, Graham. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Graham, did you leave in that bit where Ryan talked about how he actually is totally cool with MK Dons and has no problem with their history? Because that one really surprised me, and I was surprised he was okay with that being even in just kind of like the preamble to the show.
I took that bit out along with the overt racism left in the reset.
That was smart, yeah. The MK Dons Till I Die tattoo in my very sensitive area, you couldn't have shown that anyway, so I'm glad you cut that out too.
That's for Patreon. Along with you spending time with Tommy Scoops. Saw that on the Patreon over the weekend. Have you switched teams, Ryan? Is that what's happening here? I'm surprised you're on today's show.
I'm not the one who has switched teams to a wise soccer place. Joe Larry's here. Hi, Joe. How are you?
I am great. Yeah, I had fun
going
on Soccer-Wise
What a segue.
Week. Yeah, that was good. I like how we're all just hucking each other under the bus. This time, no, I was happy to go on with Tom and David. We all had a chance to hang out with Tom. I guess Ryan and I had some Tom time over the last few days. And guys, there's a lot of soccer. I don't know if we're all sort of up to date on that. Yeah. There's a lot of soccer going on. So Ryan, I don't know how you balance that and also your musical endeavors with also weekend reviewing. It's a big lift, but it's just encouraging to know that when we mess up, Graham will leave it in the edit anyway.
That's exactly right. Thank you very much, Graham, for serving us thusly. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Shows, where you'll find our bonus content, by the way, including but not limited to a weekend review extra. All the extra weekend we couldn't squeeze into this show will be there, and video content. There's been plenty of it over the weekend. I was at a Charlotte FC game with the aforementioned Scoops. Taylor's been playing some soccers back in season. Is it the start of the season?
Start of the season. We have a lot of new people. It was a rough way to start the season. Only the one red card in this game, so that's good. That's positive.
Oh, wow. Well, that's fewer than a few games we're going to talk about today, Taylor, so that's very good indeed. And, of course, you'll get access to our Discord server where all the cool kids are hanging out. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show if you'd like to support us, please. And thank you. All right. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's review this here weekend. We'll start off with the FA Cup. We're going to fly through a few of the games, including Manchester City's 3-1 win over Plymouth. Man City youngster Nico O'Reilly scoring twice. Kevin De Bruyne topping it off there. It was 1-1, Graham, until the 76th minute, and Plymouth had the lead in this one. Nearly 8,000 Green Army fans in attendance in Manchester there. Of course, they beat Liverpool in the last round. And, of course, Pep Guardiola's main criticism was of the ball. I think Mikel Arteta has had criticism. That City had 29 shots, only 9 of which were on target. Therefore, hence, it was the ball's fault. It's 2 round? Not sure.
Yeah, and of course Plymouth were playing with a different ball every time turnover passed over. The ball boys would throw a different ball on. So I can understand what Pep Guardiola was on about. No, Plymouth, Man City are through here, obviously. But Plymouth are still the story from this game, because you're absolutely right, Ryan. At, 70 minutes, it's 1-1. They take the lead in this game. It kind of looked like it was on for a good portion of this match. Now, obviously, Man City were having loads of territory and possession, and I think it was slightly different to the Liverpool game, and it felt like they were really hammering at the door for a lot of this match. So it was always likely they were going to get the goals, particularly when Erling Haaland comes off the bench and does the kind of Erling Haaland goal-bot thing and scores, right? He scores in this game, or it's his shot that then is followed up by Nico O'Reilly. He kind of gave them more of a penalty box presence. They were putting a lot of crosses into the box. Once he comes on, they have someone to get on the end of those crosses. But Plymouth were great. For a large portion of this match, they really restricted Man City. And as you say, when they score that first goal, even when it goes to 1-1, you're thinking, just get to the end of the match, just get through extra time, and you never know in the shootout. But unfortunately, they're out, but they have been one of the best stories from the FA Cup this season.
And do you know why they got the bounce they did? Do you know why they're playing such competitive soccer?
Is it the ball?
It's the sack boy. Because they had Wayne Rooney in there. You get rid of Wayne Rooney, suddenly your fortune turns around and you're able to almost beat a team, I guess is what we're concluding here with this game.
That'd be better. That'd be an improvement from Manchester United, so maybe they should get him in, yeah. Almost beat a team.
There you go. Sackboy residuals still paying off. Like to see it there, indeed. All right, Man City through to the next round. Taylor, Man United not through to the next round. A 1-1 draw against Fulham at home. Fulham going through 4-3 on penalties. Bernd Leno, the hero, with 2 saves in the shootout for Fulham there. I only have one observation for this game, Taylor, which we probably shouldn't spend too much time on. But there was a chant when I think Fulham's equaliser went in, which was, "He looks like a rat, he looks like a rat, Bruno Fernandes, he looks like a rat."
Was that for the Man United fans?
It could have been. I'm not sure.
I mean,
it was Jim Ratcliffe.
The Fulham fans were very loud in this game. It sounded like, anyway.
He pulls strings like Remy the Rat. Maybe they were just trying to do like a nice Ratatouille reference. I think I'm fine with that comparison. Thank you, Joe. My notes for this one are United are bad. Jedi scored a penalty in the shootout. Let's keep it moving. I don't think we need to spend any time talking about Manchester United. Credit to Fulham, though, for knocking out the reigning champions.
The Jedi penalty, by the way, is so cool. Have we ever seen him take a penalty before? I can't quite recall. But maybe he should take them more often, because he did the thing of like wait and see where the goalkeeper would go and then just rolled it in the other direction. So was very impressed by that. I didn't watch this game until the penalty
Womp
shootout.
Rats and his T16 back home.
Exactly. I didn't watch this game until the shootout when it became clear that it was going to go to a penalty shootout. Turned it on and very much enjoyed the Bernd Leno interview afterwards, where they asked him, did you do any research, any homework? And he said, yeah, one of the coaches at Fulham gave me a bit of paper with instructions. We spent a lot of time before the game talking about, and then he goes, but I just ignored that. I just went with my sense on the. Oh, I bet the coach is absolutely delighted with the amount of work that you just blatantly ignored.
Graham, I referenced this before, but I always love the story of when Paul Ince was coaching and he was like furiously scribbling things into his notepad for his halftime team talk, and then they caught it with the camera when he like turned it over and it just said shoot and was underlined 45 times. I wish that piece of paper was, he just opened it up and it said save the penalties. He's like, okay, good, okay, same page. And then he made the saves.
That might have been it, yeah.
Or don't save the penalties, and he disregarded that, to keep it true.
Very much like in The Simpsons, where The Simpsons got a horse and Homer was wanting to be a horse whisperer, and he just whispers to his horse, "When the race starts, run really fast."
And he nailed it.
Same vibe. Same vibe. All right, Brighton are through to the next round, to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup as well. A 2-1 win over Newcastle. Danny Welbeck scoring the extra time winner there. Both teams ending with 10 men, so fewer on the pitch than in Taylor's weekend game. Tariq Lamptey off for Brighton. Anthony Gordon will miss the League Cup final because he decided to put up some hands in the 83rd minute. Oh, Taylor, silly boy.
He really was, and I think you can see what's happening in rewatching this a few times. It's basically the whistle's gone because I think for an offside call, and it's the usual like the defender's trying to get the ball off of the attacker who's maybe overly pursuing it, even though the whistle's gone. The defender, in this case Van Ecke, gives Gordon just a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a shove, and I think Gordon goes to pay it back, but gets his timing wrong or gets his placement wrong, and essentially instead of giving Van Ecke like a little bit of a shove to like the side of his body, really fully shoves him in the face and head and knocks him over. And even if it wasn't a ton behind it, it still looks violent enough and to the head that it's going to be a red card. That was a very silly moment from Anthony Gordon, who I guess is bailed out moments later by Tariq Lamptey getting his second yellow and being sent off. But it felt for all the world like Newcastle were going to win this game in the final minutes. They were pushing on. The crowd was up for it. They were getting chance after chance. And then Brighton just did what Brighton did. And Danny Welbeck did what he does, which is show up randomly and score beautiful like chipped passes out of nowhere. Danny Welbeck is special in that way.
I love Danny Welbeck. I genuinely think he's one of the most underrated players of the Premier League era. He's 34 years old. I think his all-round game has always been brilliant, which is why he's playing for this Brighton team. And he's got 8 goals in 1,500 minutes this season for Brighton. So he's still putting up decent numbers. He would walk into the Manchester United team right now, and he'd probably, with all the injuries, walk into the Arsenal team as well. So maybe they're regretting letting him go.
Yeah, I think he is the nominee, or one of a couple nominees for Manchester United's honorary player that used to play for them that is now playing better elsewhere award. There are multiple contenders for that one this weekend. I did not think this was the prettiest game. I don't think it was the scrappiest game we had on the weekend. More on Napoli-Inter in a little bit. But this was sloppier than I expected. A lot of giveaways, a lot of physicality, and it made it really fun because both teams had clear ideas of how they wanted to press, how they wanted to possess, how they wanted to move the ball and create shooting opportunities, but then also were content to just slam into each other and have some cheap tackles and really pick up the crowd along the way. And so I found this one really entertaining, even if it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game.
Yes, indeed. We'll see if Newcastle have any players for that League Cup final as we get towards it as well. It doesn't look like it at the moment. Crystal Palace with a 3-1 win over Millwall. South London, tasty behaviour happening in this one. A comfortable win for Palace in the end, but the fans don't like each other. If for a little bit of context between it, because they're quite geographically close to one another.
Yeah, I don't think the players like each other much going on the basis of the Liam Roberts red card, which I don't know if that's where you were taking us, Ryan, but is legitimately one of the worst tackles I've seen in a football match for a while. It's one of those tackles that feels like more than a red card, so I'd imagine there's a hefty suspension coming his way because he just fully fly kicks Mateta straight in the head. It's
Graham,
just so reckless.
What is it that every decade a keeper has to be like, oh right, murder, and then just goes for like the flying jump kick? I feel like that happens once a decade and it's always egregious and horrible, but it still happens way too often, and it's not always involving Millwall, though in this case it was.
It was, yeah.
I mean, somehow the fact that it was Millwall was like even more on the nose. Like,
yeah, right.
I know. Just
is
their
it
reputation as a club.
Schumacher who did the first one?
The German goalkeeper.
Yeah, in France.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Never a good look. Never a good look. That's definitely a red card. More of a red card than Anthony Gordon, which itself was a pretty good red card.
Taylor, you've just made me think of something. If it happens maybe once a decade, are these timed with recessions? Do we get them like the same cadence? Are you predicting financial meltdown here?
Ryan, you've just come up with another ironclad economic indicator, the one that we've all been waiting for.
It is it. That's it.
Attempted homicide? Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta look at my stocks.
Yeah, obviously, we couldn't make light. This was a very serious incident. Jean-Philippe Mateta going straight to hospital. Steve Parish, Palace chairman, rather outspoken gentleman, but he was quite emotional, saying this was the most reckless challenge he'd ever seen. Not great behaviour from the Millwall fans, who are the worst behaved fans in general anyway, chanting, let him die, when he was down on the ground. Oof. So that's not the best. I mean, which is quite... It's sung ironically when someone is slightly injured. I will say that caveat.
Is it? I don't think I've ever heard that sung at a football match before.
I've heard it a little bit, but when it's a really serious injury where someone is clearly very hurt with a blow to the head, not the best behaviour from Millwall indeed. But Palace go through from that game. Who went through? Bournemouth against Wolves. Bournemouth going through 5-4 on penalties in this one. What happened here? Oh! We did it. We did it, guys. We did it. We broke a record. We did it. Finally, we've had a record VAR stoppage from this game for Bournemouth. An 8-minute stoppage here while it was decided whether a goal was allowed. Graham, we did it. You proud?
I'm so glad that we've now got the semi-automated replays in English football. Of course, this being the first weekend that they've been introduced to quicken these things up, of course, and then we have a 9-minute delay, which is the longest delay ever in an English football match. I think in terms of this game, justice was done, because had Matt Doherty, who had the penalty to win it for Wolves, this game went to a shootout. Had Wolves gone through, it would have been a bit of a smash and grab, because Bournemouth for 120 minutes of this game were so much more positive. They had so many chances. Sam Johnson comes up with a couple of big saves. I thought that front line of Semenyo, Tavernier and Evanilson were so dangerous. We're getting into the box pretty easily. Even Tyler Adams had a strike from the edge of the box. I don't think he scored for Bournemouth yet, but he had a strike from the edge of the box, which was pretty close. Bournemouth also had that second goal disallowed, which led to that VAR check. So the only reason that Wolves came anywhere close to winning this game was Matthias Cunha scored one of the goals of the season. If listeners haven't seen this goal, go and search it out. It's an absolute rocket from like 25 yards out. And then he got a red card for slapping Milos Kerkez and refused to leave the pitch. So just a typical afternoon for Matthias Cunha.
Yeah, not the best from Cunha there. And by the way, the semi-automated offside, as Graham said, was trialled this weekend. There was a congested penalty area, so the semi-automation just couldn't handle it. So hence we got.
Well, that never happens. That's such an exceptional case where you have more than one player in the box, so it'll be fine going forward.
Everything's going to be great. Very good. All right. Aston Villa are through as well, Graham, with a 2-0 win over Cardiff. Marcus Rashford doing good things again.
Yep, an assist for Marcus Rashford in this game, but the real headline on an individual basis is Marco Asensio, who's got 4 goals in 3 games for Aston Villa, and he looks great. Now, my concern with Marco Asensio was where was he going to play in this Aston Villa team, and if he was going to play as the number 10, is he strong enough as a pure creator in that role? I don't think we've seen him do much creating, to be honest, but what Unai Emery is asking him to do is get on the end of chances in good positions, and he's a great finisher, always has been a great finisher. So Marcus Rashford, yeah, obviously there's a lot of headlines around him. There's a big focus on him from the English media. But the January signing who's made the biggest impact is Marco Asensio. And if he is anywhere close to being back to his best, then that is a bit of a needle mover for Aston Villa.
There you go.
Joe, do you know who saved 1.06 more goals than expected in this game?
Zach Steffen.
Incorrect.
The other one.
Crushed it.
Ethan Horvath, baby. Making some saves. He had good numbers in this game for the number of shots he faced, though ultimately wasn't able to get the win because I guess he couldn't go the other way and score those goals. So credit to Ethan Horvath, but also blame for Ethan Horvath.
We're winning.
Correct. Yeah. Resolved.
In a way.
Question mark.
Yeah. Economically. Any more goalkeeper injuries and, economically won't be winning the World Cup. But anyway, the quarter-final draw for the FA Cup, Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Preston, last remaining non-Premier League team, are hosting Aston Villa. Bournemouth against Manchester City. And Brighton taking on Forest or Ipswich. That game, Forest versus Ipswich, happening later on Monday as we record. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we go to Serie A for the top-of-the-table clash in Naples. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our weekend review. Let's take it to Serie A, where we had a top-of-the-table clash, just 1 point separating Napoli and Inter Milan as they went into this game weekend, and just 1 point separating Napoli and Inter Milan as we come out of this game weekend. A 1-1 draw. Inter with a superb free kick from Federico Di Marco. Free kick given away by Scott McTominay, just saying, Graham.
Well, hold on. So I was so confused about what happened there. I'm actually not going to defend my boy here because I thought he might have given away a penalty in that moment where I think there was a legitimate claim for him to have given away a penalty in that moment. But then the referee gave a free kick outside the box. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Can anyone cast a light on that? I don't know whether it was just I was getting bad replays or whatever from TNT, but I've no idea how they ended up with a free kick outside the box, but DiMarco treated it like a penalty anyway.
It's to do with the UK broadcast rights. You don't get the accurate lines on the UK broadcast.
Sure.
We get
have to pay extra for that.
Yeah, you have to pay extra for that. Yeah, that's a premium product. But that goal was cancelled out. Federico Di Marco's goal was cancelled out by Philip Billing in the 86th minute. Philip Billing going from maybe not getting in the Bournemouth team to doing it at the top for Napoli. Good job for him.
Sort of. I mean, credit to him for celebrating that goal like it was a worldie that he totally meant. But getting the ball, getting the shot, and then getting the deflected save sort of stabbed home. I mean, it's a good reaction from him, and it's a good finish, but there was definitely an element of it would have been preferable if you finished that first time. But not on you for putting it in the back of the net at all.
I always try to bounce my first shot off the goalkeeper so I get another stab at it just to make sure they're really off kilter. That's definitely a tactical choice. It was a nice sequence from Napoli where they finally were able to break through and pull out one of Inter's center backs and play right through that sort of channel on their left side, Inter's right side. And it is a beautiful bit of play from Lobotka charging forward out of midfield as well. I thought that was more of the rarity than the norm in this game. This was car crashy in a lot of ways, which is odd, guys, because I didn't necessarily expect this from an Inter team that play really beautiful ball and tend to dominate possession. They're one of my favorite teams to watch in Europe out of that 3-5-2 that Inzaghi plays. It's super fluid. It's super free-flowing. They move center backs into midfield. They move midfielders into the back line. There's a lot of rotations. We saw some of those things in this game. But man, after they take the lead in the 22nd minute off of that free kick, that was just so beautiful. We've talked about it already. There's very little from Inter in this game. And even before that, there wasn't a lot from Inter in this game. And what happened after that goal goes in is, I think, as a neutral, I was kind of doomed and let down by the game state, which was Inter no longer feeling the pressure to go out there and get a second. I mean, they would have liked one, sure. But they sat fairly deep. They ended with 30-something% possession in this game. And Napoli were trying to break them down. And Napoli are a good team. There's no doubt about that. I don't think they are the best team when it comes to breaking down a lower sort of block. Even a block like Inter's where you can find some space between those outside center backs and the wing backs. You can find space on either side of that three-man central midfield. Napoli didn't create a ton of super clear-cut chances, although they did have the better of the chances on the day, but that's what you expect when you're down a goal chasing a game in a huge title-deciding sort of match. And at the end of the day, we ended up with that title decision just sort of getting kicked down the road.
Yeah. And I think, Joe, I think you're absolutely right outlining how the game state went over the course of the 90 minutes. I think this was in large part a game dictated, for better or worse, by Billy Gilmour being in this Napoli team. So it's Anguissa who's out injured. Normally he gives you that forward thrust. He gives you that those box crashing runs. We've seen that from him a number of times this season. Billy Gilmour comes into the centre of midfield alongside Lobotka, and I think we saw the two sides of Billy Gilmour, where on the ball, I think he's one of the best around in that withdrawn position where he can see the game in front of him, he can keep the rhythm going, he's got really good positional awareness as well of where to pick up the ball. I think he's got quick feet, so he can pop the ball around the corner at times. The other side of Billy Gilmour, you don't get a whole lot going forward. And if you compare him to Anguissa, who, as I say, makes those box crashing runs, I think that's a large part of why Napoli were able to control possession for much of this game, but not really get a lot out of possession, is because they didn't really have those players breaking from midfield. It wasn't until late on where Philip Billing comes on, and he does the kind of Anguissa thing and gets into the box. So I liked Napoli having a little bit more control in this game. I think it stopped Inter from dictating the game on their terms. They were restricted as an attacking force as a result. But I would have liked Conte to roll the dice with Billing, coming into that game. Maybe just a little bit earlier, because he comes on in the 79th minute of this match, which only gives him 10 minutes to affect the game. I think maybe even 10 minutes earlier than that might have been beneficial for Napoli.
Yeah. Taylor, we have a running doc, a sort of running order doc for this show, and you've put in there Napoli are so fun.
Yep.
They have not won any of their last 5 games now. They've drawn 4 of them. They lost to Como last week. Extrapolate on that.
I shall. In the movie Heat, which all of you refuse to watch.
I like where we're going.
I love it. This has started well.
Al Pacino says of Neil Macaulay's crew, Robert De Niro's crew, drop of a hat, these guys will rock and roll. Now, in this situation, they're talking about murdering witnesses, but that does feel like a thing that Napoli might do under Antonio Conte. But this Napoli team are fun because they can play really effective and pretty soccer, and they can defend really well as a unit, and that can be impressive. They can have kind of free-flowing, expansive counterattacks, and they can even possess the ball well. But there was a moment in the first half when Scott McTominay controls a ball perfectly. It's like a driven ball into his feet. He controls it perfectly, and then threads a needle of a through pass to trigger a counterattack. And then maybe 2 minutes later, he absolutely crushes, I think it was a Cherby. And I just thought, oh, that's why Antonio Conte loves Scott McTominay, because he can control the ball, receive a ball, pass a ball, but also will not back down from getting into a scrap. You could see the Scotland national team in him there. And I think that's what I enjoy about this Napoli team, is just they will respond to the energy and atmosphere of that crowd. They will happily get stuck in and make it almost literally a fist fight. But then they can also at times play very pretty, attractive soccer. That wasn't the case in this game. It was more scrappy, but I just really enjoyed those moments of ballerina levels of control combined with just MMA grudge fest at the same time.
Yeah, Graham, the Conte-Lukaku relationship seems to be doing pretty well as well, and Lukaku had a few good chances in this game. What's the alchemy there, do we think?
No ketchup, I presume, has got to be the secret for Lukaku's success.
It's mayonnaise for the Belgians, isn't it, of course, rather than ketchup. Of course,
yeah. So, that's the worst thing about Belgium. Lukaku, yeah, you're absolutely right. This season has been surprisingly effective for this Napoli team. I actually thought in this game he wasn't hugely effective, and that wasn't purely on Romelu Lukaku. I thought a lot of Napoli's balls were very straight. I thought they needed to be a little bit more angled, maybe a little bit more diagonal, and bring a wide player in. I mean, on the left side, Napoli basically didn't have a left wing for this game. That was something that I noticed. So there wasn't a lot of width to this team, which then results in, as I say, those straight balls forward. He improved as the match went on. I thought he was coming a little bit deeper to collect the ball on occasion and hold it up. But weirdly, for a guy of his size, that's never really been Lukaku's game. Is like someone who holds up the ball and brings in others. He wants to be running towards goal, and there weren't really many of those moments for Napoli, which is. This is what I'm talking about, where like the positive of them having lots of the ball was Inter as an attacking outfit were really restricted in this game. I thought this was one of the most toothless performances I've seen from Inter all season. But on the other side of that, Napoli didn't really get to play to their strengths either, where you didn't really get McTominay and Lukaku running through on goal, and so it was a weird game. It was honestly a weird game that didn't really pan out as I expected. But I did have a friend who was at this game, because it has become a pilgrimage for Scottish football fans to go to Napoli games now. I've got a group of friends who are going in May. They asked me if I wanted to go. I'm still thinking about it. But I had a friend who was inside the stadium, and he said the atmosphere was incredible. And you know how there's that Rob McElhenney, I'm sure it's Rob McElhenney, it's either him or Ryan Reynolds, the quote about some draws are wins and some draws are defeats. Well, this draw was a win for Napoli, where they are chasing that goal for so long, they get it late on. And I think before the game there was this sense that maybe they needed to beat Inter to really assert themselves in this title race. But the way the game panned out, I think they're just happy to still be hanging in there, and the title race is very much still alive.
It is.
Graham, did you also have a friend at a Vancouver game this weekend?
I did, yeah.
A guy who doesn't have a lot of friends, seems like you got a lot of friends going to soccer games, Graham. I'm starting to feel like maybe there's a false narrative here.
I never actually meet them in person. They're just dotted around the world, as proven by this podcast.
Friends.
Graham, are you talking about Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmore? Are you saying they're your friends? Is that what
and
this
Ryan
is?
Gold,
friends at the game. Yeah, there it is.
Well, not literally a win. I'll point out, Graham, for Napoli here. Obviously, they're 1 point behind in the title race, of course, but it's still very, very tight indeed at the top. Joe, any more to say on this game, or shall we move on to elsewhere in Serie A? Anything for you?
Taylor wants to go. Go, Taylor.
I have a very important thing to note, which I don't think we've already discussed. It just has to be noted that. Does everyone know what Philip Billings had on the back of his jersey when he subbed on? He's gone with Philip as the name on the back of his shirt, and I found that to be terrific and wonderful all at once. I wasn't expecting it to say Philip, and it did, and I feel like, make yourself Brazilian by being Philip.
So you're saying he got a really good billing for himself there?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Bravo to you, sir.
Taylor, your take is the correct one, because it's more fun and players can do what they want. I kind of feel like we need to rein that stuff in a little bit.
Correct.
Like there should be a you've
correct,
earned it to doing a nickname or your first name or whatever on the back of your jersey, and I feel like we've cheapened it as a soccer society. There are a few of those in MLS this year. There's a few of those out here in Phoenix this year, and I'm just like, maybe we can take one little half step back, and everybody can actually like know your name as a player, and then when everybody does know who you are, then we can go with the nickname.
Well, I mean, he's earned it now. Surely, he just had a 1-2 off the goalkeeper. Who else can do that?
Well played.
The high watermark of this will forever be Rod Smart, who was He Hate Me of the XFL. He had that on the back of his shirt. And I think if you're not going to go fully that creative, I guess you can go with Philip instead of Billy.
Wow.
Ocho Cinco's quite a classic as well, isn't it?
That's not bad. Yeah.
But He Hate Me wasn't like, he didn't change his name to He Hate Me in the way that Chad Ochocinco did, or like Meta World Peace. Those guys took it to another level.
That's true.
Hey, are you related to my buddy Chad, or what is it? Like Chris Ochocinco? It's just not often that you find the same guy with the same Spanish numerals for the last name.
I know. What a world. What a world. I don't mind the name so much, Joe. It's when you have the number 99 on your shirt. That's where I have to draw the line there. We can get to that later because there was an Atlanta player.
There's a school of thought behind that. Louis van Gaal is a big proponent of that, or like that. If you're a goal scorer, you have to have a 9 on your shirt. So if you're 39 or 29, at least you've got a 9 on there, and you're showing that you have attacking intensity.
Yeah, Louis van Gaal says you got to have a 9 on there. Caleb Porter says you got to have a neck tattoo. I mean, these are all traits of the best players that have ever played.
Yeah.
It all explains a lot. Yes. Anyway, elsewhere in Serie A, Atalanta could have closed in on the title race. They're in third, of course. They did not close on it. They also had a draw 0-0 with Venezia. A bit underwhelming from Gasperini's side it was this weekend. Also underwhelming, Graham, at the San Siro, where Lazio came away with a 2-1 win over the Rossoneri. Pretty hostile atmosphere at the stadium. The Milan fans protesting against the club owners, the American ownership group. Milan Ultras in the Cordova, they left their section empty until the 15th minute. It's always that weird thing where there's an entire empty section and everyone just slowly streams in the 15th minute, which is it takes a lot to actually make sure that everybody does that, right? Because you'd think there'd be 1 or 2 people who's like, I don't care, I'm watching the first 15 minutes, I bought the seat. But they all do it. It's incredible.
I was very confused. I didn't know before the game that was actually happening, and then midway through the game, as I was watching this, it was like the scene when Bane sends all the cops into the underground tunnels, and these thousands of guys in uniform walking and striding into San Siro at the same time, and then it became clear what was actually happening. Yeah, AC Milan is not a particularly nice place to be right now, regardless of whether you're a fan or a player or a manager. This is a Milan team with serious issues, and this result is the sort of thing we've come to expect from this side. That's 3 league defeats in a row for Conceição. Notable that Fonseca never had 3 defeats in a row. Things seem to be getting worse under this manager. He's not to blame, by the way, but he is certainly under serious pressure. And it's got to a point now where it would not surprise me if they fired him. If that news came through.
Who's not to blame?
Conceição.
The coach of the team.
There are deeper issues at this team than Conceição. But the way that it's going for him right now, there are rumours rumbling that Milan are considering his position. If we got a tweet as we're recording right now that he'd been fired, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I will say, Milan in the second half of this game showed some decent intensity and spirit, and Pulisic started to get a little bit more involved. Still not a whole lot of chance creation, but they go down to 10 men for a tackle that honestly I didn't think was a red. Pavlovic gets sent off, it's not especially high, it's absolutely a foul, but there's cover as well, and it's 40 yards out from goal too, so I thought that was a bit of a harsh red card, unlike the one in the Millwall game. And but even with 10 men, Milan were able to have a lot of the game in the Lazio half. They get the equaliser through Chukwueze. But stoppage time of this game was absolutely wild. End-to-end stuff, both teams going for it. Lazio win the penalty right at the death when the game was pretty much over. Pedro converts, and yeah, this is a Milan team that just cannot stop making mistakes. And that's where I have some sympathy for Conceição. Is how do you legislate for a player giving away a penalty or getting sent off or putting one in their own net, as seems to be happening on a weekly basis for this team.
Just to clarify, Graham, we are, of course, there is a situation behind the scenes at Milan, but we're not blaming Conceição, whose team has lost its last 3 games and got knocked out of the Champions League by Feyenoord. He's not to blame
well, I don't think he's helping matters, but this is a team that was having a bad season before he rocked up, so I just don't think changing the manager is going to fix all their problems. Maybe it might improve things a little bit, but because I don't like his midfield setup. It feels like Milan are not really doing a lot with possession when they have it. They're out of possession structure as well as in midfield seems quite fragmented. Fofana, I think, is more of a box-to-box midfielder rather than a number 6. So I don't really like a lot of his usage of players, particularly João Felix, who at this point must be a money laundering scheme. But I don't think changing the manager fixes all of Milan's
Graham,
problems.
I was going to mail you your Managers Don't Matter merch that I'm working on. You were going to get the pre-release. And then I remembered that Conceição subbed Yunus Musa off in the 37th minute of this game, not because of injury, just because he wanted to put the money laundering scheme on the field. And now I've decided that it is all Conceição's fault, and I will no longer be making that merch.
Well, the thing is, Yunus Musa's actually an ultra, so he had to go and stand up in the...
It was a timing thing, 37th minute, sure. Right, okay.
He had to throw a moped off of one of the levels of the San Siro or someone. I think that's how it went. Lazio doing very well, though. They're in 4th place, 8 points off the title now. Milan's kit, Graham, the Portugal kind of thing they had going on. Didn't love that. But,
So it was an off-white collaboration. They've had 2 of them now, and the first one was decent, but Milan at home just need to be wearing red and black. I'm very much a traditionalist in that sense.
That's a cute backstory, Graham. We all know it was just Rafael Leao, and they said, "Hey, Rafa, can you make us a jersey?" And he said, "Hey, I've got one at home. Let's just mock this up." That was the whole thing.
Yeah, who is the partnership with? Because if the answer isn't Portugal, I have some questions.
Off-white, which is like a streetwear brand.
Portuguese streetwear brand, right?
very
wasn't
it was red and green.
Yeah, it was very off-white.
Anyway, one more result I'd like to point to. Roma with a 2-1 win over Como. Nice comeback win for Roma here. Their 4th win in a row as well. Como had a 2-game winning streak before this. Well, they did beat Napoli in that 2-game winning streak, to be fair. So they were pulling away from the relegation zone. I just wanted to point out because Claudio Ranieri got the Manager of the Month trophy presented to him beforehand. I just like seeing Ranieri be successful because he's just like our grandpa. I think he's great.
I had to check and see if he'd been fired from Roma yet, because he was going to be my nominee to take over Milan after Conceição. That just feels like an appointment that should happen. But no, instead he's winning awards, Ranieri, so let's keep him there.
Yeah, he is kind of the counter to the Managers Don't Matter thesis, because Roma season, he is, I didn't expect much from him, but Roma's season has kind of been turned around
Well,
with him as the manager.
To be fair, that's because Daniele De Rossi laid the foundation, and then he came in and reaped the benefits of the hard work done by the greatest manager on earth. We all agree that Ryan is only mentioning Como because he's hoping to get a sneaky invite to attend a game there, right? That's why he finds ways to reference them in shows. I feel like that has to be the
He's
case.
hoping to get a sneaky Villa.
Yeah,
complimentary Villa.
Me and Tom Holland are going to be sitting next to each other in the stand at Como at some point, I imagine. That will be fun. Indeed. I just like Ranieri. I think he's great. He's got a great story. They're refusing to let this man retire, clearly, because he's, as you say, he might get another job after this one as well. No,
just give him both. Roma and Milan simultaneously. Who says no? Everyone? All right.
There we go. Love to see it. All right, let's go take a look at the Bundesliga. Dortmund with a 2-0 win over St. Pauli. Another win for Niko Kovac there. 8-0 aggregate over the last 2 games for Dortmund, Taylor. Very impressive stuff. Gio with more minutes. Yay.
He's doing it. And I think Julian Brandt was capable of playing in this game, so that's a positive sign. Less positive were the stories that came out today that Gio was about to be loaned to RB Leipzig, but then Dortmund couldn't get a player last minute, so they decided to keep him. That feels very much like maybe he was not in the plans, but he is playing. They are winning. Niko Kovac is having himself a good old time. Not quite as good of a time as Xabi Alonso is presently having with Bayer Leverkusen. I watched the entirety of that game, and my goodness did I enjoy it, because Leverkusen, I would say, have been back since like last time we talked about them specifically in the Champions League. But this game was Leverkusen back to their most Leverkusen. Their press was so strong and so efficient and just caught Frankfurt so many different times. It was 3-0 inside of the first 33 minutes, and that was really all she wrote. But the way they pressed, the way they forced turnovers, and then the ruthlessness with which Bayer attacked after winning the ball back was just a sight to behold. And for the second goal, I believe it is. No, excuse me, it's the opener. It's the Nathan Tella goal. If people haven't seen it, Granit Xhaka plays the pass of the season. It is unbelievable. And it's a pass that he plays before the run is even happening. Like, he spots the space that is opened up and kind of goes to his left and then plays it back diagonally across to his right, in for Nathan Tella to take a touch around the defender and then finish really, really well. It's a great finish from Tella, but it's an exceptional pass from Granit Xhaka, who also got into some scraps in this game, had some other nice passes, had some other really good moments. But this was just Leverkusen ticking every single Leverkusen box, and it was really fun to watch this game.
It was indeed. Just to clarify, a 4-1 win for Leverkusen at third place Eintracht Frankfurt. Very good indeed. There's not much of a title race, I will say, though, in Germany at this point. Bayern with a 3-1 win over Stuttgart on Friday. They are top with 61 points. Leverkusen 53, and Frankfurt, as mentioned, in third on 42. So 19 points between first and third. It's not quite like it is at the top of another couple of continental leagues.
Not to then take us in an entirely different direction, but watching this game, if Xabi Alonso goes to Real Madrid, I don't see how that works. I really don't, because this entire Leverkusen team is predicated on an aggressive press with an aggressive back three that has really good attacking wingbacks and can cause problems all over the pitch, and they press as such a good unit. Like Patrick Schick does such a nice job of sort of cutting off half the field once a goal kick has been taken, and everybody kind of responds accordingly. I don't think Real Madrid are going to play like that. I don't think they want to kind of counter and then defend and then press, and I don't think they have the personnel who really want to run all over the place to make that happen. So that will be really interesting if he does end up going to Real Madrid. Maybe he has to adjust things. Maybe he gets a better song out of Real Madrid than Carlo Ancelotti is able to get. But I don't know how that's going to work, so I'm going to be fascinated if it happens.
You can't picture Kylian Mbappe cutting the field in half with his pressing? And by cutting the field in half, I guess I mean just sitting and sort of standing there hoping that he does something? I can picture that.
The second part, yes.
Yeah.
The second part, yes.
Okay. Well, I think we all know the clear solution here. Claudio Ranieri to Real Madrid.
Solved it.
For next season.
Third job. Let's do it.
Yeah. There we go, indeed. All right, why don't we take a quick break? When we come back, let's go to La Liga and talk about some drama at the top of the table. We've got MLS to talk about as well. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our weekend review. We go now to La Liga, where we had some big movement at the top. Betis with a 2-1 win over Real Madrid. Brahim Diaz, goodness me, with the opener for Real Madrid, cancelled out by Johnny Cardoso with the header. Then Isco with a penalty. Anthony in good form once again for Betis as well. Did I see some more there were some referee complaints in this one, Graham, wasn't there, from Madrid, because there usually is. That's their thing.
Oh, there always is. I mean, I watched this game live. I'm not totally sure what their complaints were about. They've got bigger problems to worry about than the referee, because this is becoming a bit of a collapse by Real Madrid in the league anyway. They've taken just 5 points from their last 15 since the start of February. Ancelotti, after this match, was really candid, says that the title is starting to slip away from Real Madrid, although it's still very tight at the top of the table. Atleti and Barcelona, not this weekend, but are still kind of tripping over each other, so Real Madrid are still very much in there. There's still scope for them to turn this around. But this particular game was the culmination of all the different criticisms that have been made of Real Madrid over the season. Defensively, all over the place. David Alaba was back into the lineup for the first time after injury. I thought physically looked quite weak, both in terms of just being a step slow and also in his defensive duels. I can't really understand why he was brought into that lineup. I mean, obviously David Alaba is a high potential player, a high value player. He's been out for a long time. Real Madrid have got the derby, of course, on Tuesday night.
Because they have 4 defenders in their entire squad. That's why, Graham.
But one of those defenders is Raul Asensio, who has been excellent over the last month. He's like 23. He's like Joe's age.
No, he's past it.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, yeah. It's a retirement, according to Joe.
Right.
Plenty of good Asensios out there in world soccer at the moment, as we know.
There is indeed. But like Real Madrid needed this Asensio in the back line. So defensively, I thought they were all over the place. On the right side of the Real Madrid defence, Lucas Vazquez had a really tough time, and Betis consistently had joy down that side. And then Real Madrid, just in general, were really, really sloppy. They lost the ball 27 times in the first half alone, which was a record for half of football in La Liga this season. Touches were off, passes were off. And then the biggest accusation of Real Madrid right now from this match, they just didn't fancy it. The conditions were atrocious in this game, particularly towards the end of the first half, where it's raining so hard that fans in the bottom tier of the Benito Villamarín are like taking shelter and higher up in the tier. And so the conditions are bad. Betis got in their face. It was a hostile atmosphere. And Real Madrid, with all their superstars, they shrunk. There was no intensity, no desire. So, yeah, they absolutely need a response in the derby tomorrow night, because this was pretty much as bad as it gets for Real Madrid.
Yeah, Grim, agreed. And the sloppiness that you're talking about for Madrid in this game is very, very real, because when you watch this match, Real Betis were strong defensively. They were firm in their 4-4-2 mid-block. They didn't press a ton in this game. It wasn't like they were trying to get inside of Thibaut Courtois' box and press Real Madrid into oblivion. They wisely set a deeper line of confrontation and sort of dared Real Madrid to break them down. Yes, they were happy to press up out of that mid-block and try to spark transition attacks. But Real Madrid have faced teams that play like this hundreds of times. I mean, these players understand how to break down these kinds of blocks. Not to say that that's always going to be successful, although in the early stages with that beautiful goal sequence that Mendy ends up that is Diaz. Mendy plays the ball across to Diaz. That Diaz scores in the 10th minute. It's a great sequence. Like, Mbappe's involved in there, and they just rip Real Betis apart. And then it was just gone. And credit to Real Betis in the same breath, because I do think they were very good in this game. They were resolute defensively. They took advantage of the fact that Real Madrid didn't seem particularly interested in going and actually competing across 90-plus minutes. They were stout in that 4-4-2 shape. Thought Isco was good in this match as that number 10. We mentioned Johnny Cardoso earlier. Of course, scores the goal. I thought he was very ball secure in this game. Not perfect as half of that double pivot for Betis, but he was largely quite secure in possession and did a nice job of filling the space when Isco would drop in to get touches deeper down the field. Cardoso was the one in that Betis team who would then pivot up into that number 10 spot just to provide that attacking balance and really positional balance across that midfield group. There was a lot to like about Betis, both in the attack and defensively. Real Madrid, though, are the story of this game because they have the talent to win these kinds of matches. And when the title race is this close and something goes wrong like this, the first and correct question is, what happened to Real Madrid?
We shall see. We shall see indeed. Very good. Barcelona back on top as well. A comfortable 4-0 home victory for them over 10-man Real Sociedad on Sunday. Barcelona's 6th straight win this was. Joe, are you the biggest Barcelona cheerleader in these parts? I think you are,
amongst the four of us, yeah, no doubt about it. This game reminded me of something that somebody told me once about playing Ricky Puig in the LA Galaxy, which was, if we'd had 14 players on the field, I still don't think we could have stopped him. I feel like there's something here for Real Sociedad if they end this game and play most of it with 10 players. I wonder if we gave them 12 to start this match, if things would have been all that different. And specifically, I'm referring to Lamine Yamal over on that right side for Barcelona, who was, once again, unbelievable in this game and was doing the sorts of things that I think didn't fully take advantage of the fact that Sociedad had 10 players. And by that I mean not that he made a bunch of foolish decisions to waste the man advantage, but Sociedad down a player were defending deep for large stretches of this game. When Barcelona had possession high up in the final third, Sociedad would drop deep. They ended with 24% possession in this game and 0 shots. So that paints a picture of what this match was like. Lamine Yamal was going up against a low block, right? And whether that's 10 players, 11 players, 12 players, obviously easier with 11 than it is with 10. But man, there were defenders over on that side ready to deal with Lamine Yamal. And it just doesn't matter, guys. It just absolutely does not matter against players that are older than him, who are more experienced than him, who are stronger than him. Not that there are many, because he is quite strong. He breaks teams down. It is not the first move with Lamine Yamal, although he can beat you with the first move. It's not the second move for him, although he can beat you with the second move. It's the third move. It was in this game where he drops a shoulder and starts to get to the end line. Then he cuts back to go central, and then he cuts back one more time to fully finish off the fullback on that side. And he's grabbing, key passes and assists. I mean, this is an all season long sort of thing. He was unreal in this game. Barcelona were unbelievable. There's not a ton that we're going to take about it, a win over a 10-man Sociedad team. But man, the way that Lamine Yamal goes at defenders and has the agility and the vision to pick out actions, after 1, 2, or even 3 moves is legitimately, and I try not to use this term because I don't think it means a whole lot. It's world class. Like, he might be the best in the world at doing that thing. It's absurd. He's so good.
There we go. Very good stuff from Barcelona indeed. And Atletico Madrid with a 1-0 win over Athletic Bilbao in the Franco only made one of us change our names. Guess which one? Derby. Second half strike from substitute Julian Alvarez in this one. Alvarez in very good form. Taylor, Conor Gallagher at the end of this game
was great.
did this sort of double tackle. He's done it. I think he's done it a few times in his career where he just comes on and is an absolute menace. I think Simeone would absolutely love this. A double tackle in the last minute. And Simeone does love it because he goes absolutely bonkers on the sidelines when he sees it, putting it to his veins. This was peak Conor Gallagher and peak Atleti.
As does his assistant, who runs on and does equally emphatic celebrations and really picks up the entire stadium. That is, like, Simeone loves a goal. Loves a beautiful goal, would happily take a free kick, but I think also a double tackle to end the game is probably his favorite way to end a game. Watching Diego Simeone lose his mind is always an enjoyable thing, so credit to Atleti for the result and for Conor Gallagher for making it happen.
Yes, indeed. Graham, anything on Atleti at this point?
Yeah, quite typical from Atleti in that this was a largely attritional game, as proven by that Conor Gallagher double tackle and the reaction to it late on. Some of that was down to Simeone's rotation. So Atleti had that crazy game that we spoke about last week in the bulletin against Barcelona in the Copa. They have the derby, as I mentioned, with Real Madrid in the Champions League tomorrow night. By the way, classic week in the Champions League is beckoning, where we have a Madrid derby, a Bayern Munich Bayer Leverkusen game, and PSG Liverpool. I'm very much looking forward to all of those matches. But in preparation for the Madrid derby, Atleti did rotate their team for this match. So it was Sorloth who started with Griezmann up top. They were clearly managing the minutes of some players. I don't think Alvarez and Griezmann played together in this game, or if they did, they didn't for very long. So it was a bit disjointed because of that. And I think Atleti were helped by how narrow the approach was by Athletic Club, which I didn't understand at all, because all the space was to attack in the wide areas, and Athletic have the players to attack out wide, but we never really saw that from them. So they played into Atleti's hands. What we did see, though, was on a couple of occasions, or 3 occasions, the woodwork come to Atleti's rescue, particularly with the chance from there's a sequence where a Berenguer free kick ends up off the crossbar, headed onto the crossbar, and then Inaki Williams smashes the rebound immediately off the crossbar. He hit the bar for a second time as well, about 10 minutes later. So a bit of good fortune in this result for Atleti, but they ground it out, and now it's on to the derby.
It is indeed, the derby this weekend in the Champions League, Real versus Atletico. We very much look forward to that. We'll be covering that, of course, on the feed later this week. Barcelona top, a point ahead of Atleti, and 3 ahead of Real Madrid in La Liga. Last but absolutely not least, Major League Soccer. We will be dealing with MLS, of course, in a full show on Tuesday on the feed. But a quick roundup. Where do we go? Charlotte with a 2-0 win over Atlanta, kicking off the weekend.
Where do we go, he says. Where do we go?
You knew I'd do that. Wilf Zaha with a goal, and helping to set up the first goal as well. He's arrived, Joe.
Yeah, he has. And he looked quite good on that left side. Not perfect, and I think there's some context here that matters had just 2 training sessions with the team this week. I don't know if he trained at all with them last week because his wife had been very close to giving birth back in England and he got back basically just in time for this game and kind of looked like he had gotten back just in time for this game. He had some really nice progressive passes all throughout this match, but just was not having a ton of 1v1 dribbling success. That's fine. I don't know if that's going to come, but I think it might as the season goes on. But really the thing that he adds is that visionary passing from that left side where he's just able to see passes and execute them in a way that not a lot of other players in this league are. And then his movement off the ball. And you see him clean up a goal in transition. Charlotte open up the second half. They snagged 2 goals on the break in the second 45 minutes. I thought Atlanta looked decent at times in the first half of this game. Alexei Morenchuk is still not giving them a lot, and I think that is quickly turning into a larger problem. But man, Miguel Almiron looks amazing. Charlotte, though, I think we're deserved winners at the end of the day here. I think the result was fair for them. Ryan, I'm curious for you in the stadium. What, 50,000 plus? What was the atmosphere like? What was the response to Zaha with the goal? And I don't know, what did it feel like?
It was a really good vibe, actually. I think, very good atmosphere indeed. I think Graham in his newsletter mentioned, like, you don't get this kind of thing at Selhurst Park. And I said this to the guys I was sitting with for the game. Like, Zaha's come here to, like, a giant stadium with 50,000 plus in it. He got to sit on a throne at the end of the game. Like, he must think, yeah, okay, this is a little bit different to South London, where the stands are falling apart. And
how come you've never been coronated, Ryan? How come?
My time will come. My time will come.
Right, okay.
Bide
I'll be there.
Bide it. I do think, to go back to Zaha, I watched some of his post-game media availability. He seems pretty bought in. I mean, I guess these guys could be good at putting on acts too, but he was talking about how he kind of laid into some of these guys and said, we need to play faster in this game. Or also kind of in the aftermath of that 2-2 draw they had to open the season in Seattle, which Dean Smith also laid into his players about and was quite public about with the media. Zaha seems like a dude who wants to win. He also seems like a dude with incredible fashion that I cannot even begin to comprehend. His post-game fit, unbelievable. There's a different vibe in Charlotte these days. I wrote this for Bacchio. Yeah. I think the Eastern Conference's establishment, I think about Miami and really the 2 Ohio teams, should be on notice because this Charlotte team has access to a different level of success this season. I don't know if they're going to hit it, but they have access to that level in a way that they just have never had in their entire short MLS existence. Zaha changes that for them, and as he gets more integrated into this team, I think this team could be quite good.
Yeah, you kind of answered my question before I even asked it there, Joe. That's how on it you are. My takeaway from this game was like, wait, how good are Charlotte? If they have, because obviously the best defence in the Eastern Conference last season, if they still have that basis, if they've now got a front line of Zaha, Abada and Aguiman, like, can this team win silverware? I guess one of my concerns is, like, at some point Ashley Westwood's legs might explode. He's played 17,000 minutes in the last 6 seasons, which sounds like an exaggeration. It's not. That's a fact. That's how many minutes he's played in the last 6 seasons. And he's 35 years old. So that is a bit of a concern because he's so important to this team. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with Charlotte to start the season.
Older players are doing okay. Tim Ream keeping Miguel Almiron under wraps for this game. That's not bad going. Natural left back that he is. Very good indeed. Plenty of goals elsewhere in MLS. Orlando with a 4-2 win over Toronto. 3-3 between Colorado and Dallas. Philadelphia with a 4-1 win over Cincinnati as well. The Chicago Fire, a 2-2 draw against DC United. Jacob Morel with the bicycle kick equalizer. For the end of this one for DC. Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, that was a great moment. So the context here, this game was bonkers, first of all. The Chicago Fire, Berhalter had to make a change to his center back pairing just before the game started with Carlos Terán going down with an injury in warmups. In comes Sam Rogers. And it was just a disaster. The Fire were pretty poor defensively against Columbus in week 1. They were equally poor in this game against DC United. There's chaos back and forth. DC are not a great team, so there's space for Chicago to exploit. Eventually, the Fire are up 2-1 off of 2 set-piece goals from Hugo Kuipers. Not great for DC. And DC, late in the second half, have a chance to equalize off of a penalty. It's Christian Benteke who steps up to take it, and he misses. At that point, I think the game's probably over. Au contraire. It was Jacob Murrell, who has more appearances for Georgetown than he does for DC United. He comes in and hits a ridiculous bicycle kick in the 96th minute at Soldier Field, and then goes and does a home run celebration at an American football stadium. That doesn't make sense to me, but that's okay. We'll let it slide. It's a great moment, great goal, and in a really, really bonkers game. And again, we'll talk maybe more about this one, but certainly more about some of those other results that you mentioned, Ryan, tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Plenty more to come on the show tomorrow. I'm sure you'll touch on Leo Messi not going to Houston and them having.
He didn't go to Houston. That's probably how much we're going to touch on it, to be honest.
Okay. They had to give away. They've promised free tickets for a future match to say sorry for that.
Where did he go? That is the more interesting discussion. What did Leo Messi do this weekend?
That horrid Argentine pizza place that he loves so much. That's the place. That's what he did with his weekend.
Maybe he took the giant dog to the vet or something. Maybe he had a valid excuse. We don't know. We'll find out. Unfortunate fan news at Millwall we covered earlier this weekend, and also we should note that San Diego in their inaugural home match, the match was marred in the second half by 3 occurrences of the homophobic chant that we hear at goal kicks, that we've heard at Mexico national team soccer matches in the past. Obviously, San Diego expressing, they did not like this behaviour. It was from a fairly large proportion of the 34,000 sellout crowd that we heard this. Interesting, Lojo. I watched the match recap of this one. Didn't hear it on the broadcast of that, but
would you put it on the match recap, Ryan?
Probably not.
Not a great evening for San Diego on the whole. Even kind of zooming in a little bit on that, I suppose Chucky Lozano goes off with a hamstring injury about 30 minutes into this game. San Diego again create very, very little. They do have 4 points through 2 games though, and some time to figure things out. But Lozano, your aging DP, hurting his hamstring 2 games into the season does not portend excellence in 25. So we'll see.
We will see indeed. And that is our weekend review, though. Joe Lowry, thank you very much indeed for your comments on all the games across all of the continents.
And to you, Ryan. And to you.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed. Easy for me to say.
Easy for you to say. Thank you very much, Ryan Bailey. Blah, blah, blah.
Graham Ruthven, blah, blah, blah to you.
Blah, blah, blah to you, Ryan Bailey. Your coronation will come. Don't worry.
One day with behaviour like that. Listener, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this podcast. We'll be back on the feed very shortly, but for now, bye!